2 or 3 years ago, I wrote an article called How to Ace the Alteryx Advanced Certification Test. And as part of that, embedded in this article is a link to a YouTube video where I talk about how I use the Alteryx weekly challenges to help me prepare for this test. So this is the first part, which is the certification test from June of 2021. And then this is what the weekly challenges, how they help me prepare for the test. Now, I made a promise that I would write an article about how did I write a workflow to go out to the Alteryx community website and pull down all of the information available at the time for the weekly challenges, because what I did was I brought all of them down onto my local machine so that I could quickly iterate from one topic to the next as I studied for the test. I didn't want to have to stay up on the website and load and unload files. I wanted everything in one place to make it quicker for me to be able to study. Well, I never made that video. I feel kind of bad for it. People have asked for it. In fact, here's waiting for your article. Here's a comment, someone asking, and that was 2 years ago. So I've really been remiss in this. So let's get to it. Let's talk about how did I do this? And I've changed methods a little bit now, simply because I wanted to do it a little bit faster. I wanted to do it a little bit easier, and the workflow just finished running. So I'm going to show it here in a minute, but let's take a look at where do we stand with weekly challenges. So the whole process begins with the weekly challenges source information. So if we come here to weekly challenges on Alteryx community website, we're going to see two pages, page 1 and page 2. Page 1 contains the first 300 weekly challenges, and page 2 goes from 301 to where we are now, I think at 418. And this just continues to grow. You can see over almost 800,000 views on page 1 alone, and 34,000 on page 2. So the wise people learning Alteryx, they use weekly challenges. They're very beneficial. And so let's take a look to see how does this work, how did I pull this off, and what can you learn in the process. So what made this nice and easy is that Joe M. Categorizes all of the challenges in terms of, he numbers them, gives you the challenge name, the level of difficulty, the main subject, and you can see there could be multiple subjects per problem. And then this is something new called course certification. So it allows you to quickly see which topics go with which tests, which help you prepare for the advanced test or foundations or core expert exam. Even here's an expert exam. So these 300 in page 1, all I do is I just copy it out and I paste it into an Excel worksheet. I'm going to show that in a minute. But embedded in here are hyperlinks, and that's a key part of this. So let's go take a look at what happens when I copy page 1 and copy page 2 into Excel, and then see what we do with it, because this really is how the whole process is driven. So I'm going to navigate over to where I have this information stored. And let's see here, Alteryx challenges, weekly challenge study guide, and weekly challenges. So this is a macro-enabled Alteryx, macro-enabled Excel file. That's why it's an XLSM. And so this is the pages that I've dropped in here from Joe's work. And you can see that if I highlight over there, you can see the community web page link that contains the information for this first weekly challenge. Now, the idea here is to write a workflow that can basically go into this section of the web page and then identify all of the files that are stored within there that can help you learn how to execute this work. So what they typically do is they'll upload, or people can upload their examples, their solutions, how they approach the problem, or ancillary information. So my process, my workflow here, what it does is it goes into that section of the community website and identifies and finds actionable files. What I mean by that are package workbooks, uh, workflows, macros, Excel files, other things that I may need to use to help me understand how to solve these problems. So paste that in to a worksheet, and then you notice over here in column G, I have the URL. Well, if I highlight over this, that is that URL. And how do I get it? Well, I have a function called getURL. And if you're unfamiliar with writing VBA within Excel, this could help you a little bit here. So you go to VBA, and this is a very simple function, getURL. So all it is you just pass it a range, which is a cell, and then it returns to you the hyperlink of that cell. Um, so that's all that does. Very simple. In fact, I think I have a YouTube video on how to do that if you want to watch that. But so the idea here is go into this URL, which you can see these are all have different numbers and different nomenclature, but they all have a standard kind of structure with challenge 1, challenge 2. So what we're going to do is I'm going to keep from the number forward, I'm going to keep challenge 1 joined to range, 2 preparing delimited data. I'm going to use that to create a series of directories. So if I move over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series of output directories on my local machine that will allow me to store all the individual files that are stored within each challenge. So we can see that we can have 418 individual output directories. So let's go over into Alteryx and take a look to see what exactly, how does this work? We can see right here that it took 13 minutes to execute the third step of the workflow, which is going out and getting the actual files that are up on the Alteryx community website. It brought down nearly 4,000 files. So you see 3,937 files coming in. That's the total amount of actionable content as I've defined through this process. So let's talk about how it's done. First of all, step 0 is you create the list of weekly challenges as I've shown you today, just by copying page 1 and page 2, dropping it into Excel, getting the URL, and then you can learn more about that by going to this YouTube video that I showed you early in this one that talks about why did I do this, what was the motivation behind it. So the purpose of it is then to prepare you to take the advanced test or any other test that you might want. And this is that article. This is the link to how to ace the advanced test. And then lastly, there's a tool here that I've used called the create directory macro from the user called the OC. Here's the link to that on the community website. And what this does is it dynamically builds all of the directories that you need to create to hold the information that comes through all of these weekly challenges. So let's take a look at this to start with. So in step 1, we're going to open up. I've got to shut this down first. We're going to open this up, and we can see this is the straight up XLSM, the macro enabled worksheet. We're looking at weekly challenges. And what's going to happen is we're going to basically take the URL, we're going to do a little regex on that, and we're going to create a series of directory names that are going to hold the content of each weekly challenge. This takes 6 minutes, 58 seconds to run. It creates 418 directories. What do they look like? When we go over to the K drive, look at Alteryx challenges. Here are the 418 directories. So the step 1 just creates these directories within challenges. Now there turns out that there were 2 problems when I did this. Number 111 here, make a weekly challenge dream team. Because of that word challenge in there, the regex wasn't set up to handle the word challenge within the name. So it actually truncated here instead of back here. So this part I had to add to the directory name, the 111 through the word challenge and the underscore. And then the 400th one also has the word challenge in it, a Thanksgiving challenge. So that got truncated right there. I had to add this to the directory after the running of this first part of the workflow, after I ran this. So 7 minutes to create the directories. Now, previously I had just used a DOS make directory batch file, which would run in a matter of seconds. So this the advantage of this is that it does check to see, does that directory already exist? If it does, it doesn't recreate it. So this is a nice little utility for dynamic. If you want to, instead of using a run command, if you want to do dynamic directory creation, go up here, find that macro, install it, and you can use it. It works nice. The second thing, so once we have the directories created, what happens is this mid part, step 2, basically goes through the website. It looks through, um, runs through all the URLs that we have established right here. It's looking in each of these folders on the community website to find all the content that I want to pull down. How do I limit that content? Well, you can see here I have a filter that looks for YXMD workflow, so Alteryx workflows, Excel files, package workbooks, or macros. That's what I limit this to. There could be other things you might want to pull, but this class tag here is what is used to get the downloadable content. And so there's many thousand class tags, much more than just these particular files that are used. Ultimately, what comes out of here are those 3,900 files, and they get brought down, processed, and put into basically this this Excel sheet right here, which is called the weekly challenges, the new downloads. We're going to look at this file here next. The new downloads allow us to then go out and process all of the files with the download tool. We're going to pull them in one by one. So let's take a look at that, see what gets created. So going back again to my J drive, Alteryx challenges, we will find right here the download the weekly challenges. So for each one of these challenges, we could see the record. The record ID is the number of the weekly challenge. So we could see that there's 4 files that will be downloaded from that particular challenge. And what are those output files? Well, we could see here challenge 1 MK, challenge 1 solution, challenge 1 solution _2, and then the start file. So there could be a variable number of these, certain depending upon how many people solved them and how many people submitted their solutions. That's what you're going to find up there. And so if I'm interested in a particularly advanced topic, I might go and look at multiple solutions as I'm learning how to do things. So each one of these, and again, there's 3,900 of them. This is the list of all the downloadable content. You can see it's quite extensive. So we'll just close that now. And when we get to then step 3, it's quite simple. It just opens that file, downloads each one of those, and then they just get written to your local drive in the correct directories. So that's how it works. And this gives you the log of what was successful, were the files successful, and in this case, 37 of them came in. There was no trouble with anything being downloaded. So I have the entire record of 418 weekly challenges now on my hard drive as I prepare to go through more examinations for Alteryx. Just finally, what does it look like? Here's all the directories joined to range. There's the 4 files that I talked about before. So if I'm interested in looking at a solution, of course, all I have to do is click on the file. It comes in, I can run it, and I can quickly learn what the solution technique was, or I could develop my own. using the start file. So that's how it works. Um, I am going to put this into an article with this workflow somehow attached. I'll have a link to it. Maybe it comes off of Google Drive or something. But that way you can take it, you can modify it for other applications. You could learn from it. There's quite a few things in there that could be helpful. But it's a way to basically, if you think about what's happening here, we're scraping a website to pull off information that could be used. I've done this in the past to pull off, for example, NFL statistics, different kinds of passer rating data and other things. And this is a general technique that could be used for lots of different purposes. So that's why I decided to create this article, this video. So thanks for listening, and talk to you next time.